Hello, I'm Hannah Kaplan, and this is the WCS Wild Audio Podcast, where you'll find reported audio stories covering the latest news and newsmakers from WCS's field sites, zoos and aquarium, and their conservation partners. We've got a great show today, so let's get to it. This week, the Wildlife Conservation Society welcomes a new president and CEO, Monica Medina. She arrives from the U.S. State Department, where one of her appointments was serving as the first U.S. Special Envoy for Biodiversity and Water Resources. WCS is thrilled to have at its helm a new leader with vast experience and a passion for conservation. Wild Audio's Nat Moss recently caught up with her as she steps into her new role.
Monica Medina's impressive resume reflects her training and service at some of the nation's most respected institutions. Columbia Law School, where she earned her J.D., the U.S. Army, where she worked in the General Counsel's office, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, where as General Counsel she focused on ocean policy, as she would at the Pew Environment Group, the Walton Family Foundation, and National Geographic. As the editor and publisher of Our Daily Planet, she's been a powerful voice on climate change, and as a professor at Georgetown University's School of Foreign Service, she's helped to inspire the next generation of students to protect nature. And that's all before she was appointed Assistant Secretary of State for Oceans and International Environmental and Scientific Affairs in 2021. Her enthusiasm to be joining WCS today is palpable.
It's so exciting to be at WCS. This is an amazing organization with a global footprint and with offices in 60 countries around the world, working with indigenous peoples and communities and governments. It aligned completely with the work I was already doing at the State Department.
As part of an ambitious agenda at the State Department, Monica championed initiatives to address some of our most critical environmental challenges. The threat of plastic pollution to people and wildlife loomed particularly large.
We have so much plastic in our society. We're drowning in it. We know that it's hurting nature everywhere. And the world has come together around protecting ourselves from this plastic pollution crisis. We were negotiating the week after Russia invaded Ukraine. It couldn't have been a more fractured time in the world, but it didn't stop us from coming together. Every country in the world stood up and voted, yes, we want to negotiate an agreement by the end of 2024 that would, we hope, end plastic pollution in the environment by 2040.
As the UN continues even this week to work out the details of that agreement, Monica highlights the importance of multilateral discussions on the environmental challenges we face.
What gives me the most hope is the times that I've seen over the last couple of years when I was at the State Department, the world coming together around solving these problems. What I see is a real desire by people from every walk of life, from every country, indigenous communities, all sharing this notion that we have to take care of the planet now if we want our future generations to have a planet that will look like the one we have.
Passing down that commitment to care to the next generation requires reaching and inspiring young people. That's one reason WCS's management of the world's largest assemblage of urban wildlife parks, with headquarters at the Bronx Zoo, appealed to Monica enormously.
Everyone I've talked to about their experience growing up in New York talks about the zoos. It is just such an important part of the fabric of this city. This organization is more than 125 years old. Almost 500 million people have walked through these parks and learned about nature. What an incredible opportunity to talk about the importance of biodiversity, of conservation, and I can't wait to dive into that part of this job.
It's an insight Monica gained growing up in Georgia, watching her mother, who used Zoo Atlanta as a classroom for her young students.
I have to tip my hat to my mom, who was a middle school teacher and who used the Atlanta Zoo as a laboratory for her students. She taught them about science and the scientific method by taking them to the zoo on a weekly basis, having them observe the animals there, and then write a report about what they had learned. And it was great to watch her create this curriculum. It was wonderful to see how impactful it was on her students, and it made a huge impression on me.
When you connect the impact of WCS's zoos and aquarium to its global conservation mission, says Monica, it's a powerful combination.
We have a reach all over the world, so the ability to connect the work that we're doing on the ground in a place like the Democratic Republic of Congo or in Fiji or in Colombia, to connect all of that and the importance of species conservation and preserving the wild places that are still intact out there in the world, and people who live here in the U.S. who have, frankly, an outsized power to help make change happen. An organization like WCS is perfectly poised to help bring this new era of conservation into being.
It's fitting that Monica arrives at WCS just as the conservation community prepares to celebrate 2 key days of recognition.
It's so important for us to take a minute on World Environment Day, June 5th, and World Ocean Day on June 8th, to think about all the ways that we're impacting our planet. It's a precarious time. We know that the stresses on the planet's health are increasing, whether it's climate change or the loss of biodiversity or the plastic crisis and other types of pollution that are really impacting the way the planet functions as a system. These are great days for us to think about our impact on the planet and how we can be better stewards for our future generations.
Great days for conservation and great days for WCS as it welcomes its new leader. For WCS Wild Audio, this is Nat Moss.
This special episode of the WCS Wild Audio podcast was produced and reported by Nat Moss, with help from Hannah Kaplan and Dan Rosen. Wild Audio is a production of the Wildlife Conservation Society. We'll be back soon with our 3rd season. In the meantime, check out episodes you may have missed from seasons 1 and 2 at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.